This is the deep state. This is the ruling class in America. They're trying to use it to destroy President Trump. And last night, I think he understood of the Wall Street Journal, as much as he's tried to do in the big, beautiful bill and these other things to get supply side tax cuts, as much as he's tried to do, it's never enough because he has a populist nationalist movement and they hate. And this is old man Murdoch, who made the decision to come after President Trump. And I understand the lawsuit that they're putting together is going to be absolutely incredible.
So earlier this week, the right-wing media were in basically open civil war over the topic of Donald Trump and his obvious cover-up when it comes to Epstein. And some of them got calls from Donald Trump, like Charlie Kirk, and then announced they were done with it. And then they got DMs from their fans, and then they had to be back on it. And they've all been trying to figure out, what are we supposed to say right now that isn't going to get us banned from MAGA or lose us our audience and the fat paychecks that we get? And that's been very tough for them. But this news cycle is a lot easier because now they can grandstand and how aggrieved they are for Donald Trump against the fake news media and as Steve Bannon says, the ruling elite, which I guess is reporters at the Wall Street Journal, not the billionaires that all are unified in support of Donald Trump and control every branch of government. It's just the most obviously fake populism. But anyway, yeah, they're defending him, and they've got some theories behind why the Wall Street Journal in particular published this, but I'll let Steve Bannon get us into that.
We're so back. Look, everyone is firing on all cylinders. The MAGA movement is completely united behind this fight right now. And I said, wait a minute, what do they have? And I kept getting back, they don't have anything. They have a story about a thing. And I said, well, where did they get this? And then it comes out that it's this letter that nobody's actually seen. I said, wait a minute. So what is your source if you don't actually have the letter? And I'm starting to think, Steve, I put this up on Twitter last night, that the source has something to do with former elements of the Department of Justice. I tweeted out last night that it sounds like their source might be Ghislaine Maxwell over some prison phone or something like this. Then you've got the great Susan Crabtree. She sends me a message. She's got it up now as well over at Real Clear Politics, saying that the author of this report at the Wall Street Journal is a former member of the Department of Justice who was directly tied to who? Glenn Simpson, the founder of Fusion GPS.
Okay, so we're back. We're unified. I mean, nothing has changed about Donald Trump's cover up. We're just now we can ignore it and we won't get yelled at by our base. We're totally fine with him covering up for the child trafficking and everything. Please stop pressuring us about that. Let's just talk about the media. And then we can spin these conspiracy theories that, and this is the tweet that dude seemed to be pointing to. So it's serious because it starts with hashtag breaking in all caps scoop. So one of the two reporters that worked on this story previously worked for a different company, and that company was involved with a woman, and her husband was Glenn Simpson, and he previously founded Fusion GPS, which they think is involved with a different hoax. So we're done with this thing. Obviously, Donald Trump didn't send the letter, right? I don't know. I don't take the strange health supplements that they do. Maybe with those chemicals coursing through your body, that makes sense. But to a rational person, it does not. So they're coming up with all sorts of stuff to distract from this. The rest are just denying it. Megyn Kelly says it's the dumbest attempted hit piece I've ever read. Elon Musk says the letter sounds bogus. Matt Walsh is saying they don't even provide a photo of the letter, which, by the way, it's entirely possible that they're pulling a Mother Jones with the signal leak, where they're not presenting it so that the right can go hard against the fact that it hasn't been presented, and then they can present it and get a second news cycle out of it, which is entirely possible. Maybe they won't. JD Vance says it's complete and utter bull s. Where is it? Does anyone honestly believe this sounds like Donald Trump? Which we've said, no, it doesn't necessarily sound like Donald Trump. Now, a Sharpied picture of boobies does sound like Donald Trump, and that was scrawled on the letter. So, but I just want to say, is like Trump, Cenk, you had said previously this doesn't really add much, which I agree. We know Trump is an absolute creep who's partied with Jeffrey Epstein. I get why they're so excited about this, because now it takes some of the pressure from MAGA off their back. But I have a rule. Kind of, feel free to disagree. All of these people saying, I don't believe it's true. A person stating that they don't believe something is true is meaningless if you can be sure that they wouldn't care if it was true if it became indisputable. Like if they found the letter and it was proven, Donald Trump once held it up in a photo, none of these people would care about it. So what do I care if they don't believe it or not? It's utterly pointless. They're just posturing. Like they don't believe this is true. Did they care about him talking to Billy Bush about how he can grab women's genitals? Did they care about the jury that found him liable for sexual abuse, or the dozens of other women who have accused him of assault and harassment? The Stormy Daniels, had they cared about literally any of that? Well, then if they haven't, then they're obviously biased when it comes to this stuff. Again, it's not the most important story, but they have no credibility when it comes to evaluations of Donald Trump's character or actions.
Yeah, but John, I'm gonna disagree with you a little bit because, well, that you're not wrong about any of those facts, but these guys were just criticizing Trump for not releasing the Epstein files, right?
I mean, not some of these last people, not
right, but not JD Vance, right? But Bannon and Posobiec were for sure.
Well, and I said this is why they're so excited about this. It gets the pressure off them, and now they can just turn back to attacking the libs.
And which was my point.
Yeah.
And by the way, I have to be honest, I hadn't seen that MAGA reaction, right? And so it pretty much confirms exactly what I was saying. Easy pivot, right? Fake news, that's it, we're back on Team Trump. Daddy, don't be too mad at us, etc. And it allows them to pivot away. I'd be curious to see if Trump drops the suit at some point, like a couple of weeks later or a couple of months later. Because if he does and he doesn't keep going forward with it, look, let's put it this way. Whether you're this administration overall, or mainly the US government. If you're the US government and you're covering up for these sex crimes, which the US government is definitively covering up for these crimes, they say that they're not going to prosecute a single person. But we know there were a lot of people who raped those girls. And so you can have all sorts of semantic debates about, oh, was it this or was it that or how many or but is it a file? Is it not a file? Is it fake? Is it this? It doesn't, guys. We know that the girls were raped, and they're saying we're never going to tell you who raped them, and we're never going to bring them to justice. That's the bottom line. And if you're the US government that has made that decision repeatedly through several administrations, this is gold for you. I mean, how did you get this lucky? Now, they're not talking about the US government. They're not talking about the cover up. They're having a debate about a document we've never seen, right? So it allows all of MAGA to come back onto Trump's team and go, that's it, everything is fake, just like he said. It's so helpful to them. Half those guys were tearing into the Trump administration just a couple of days ago. So if this was not coordinated in any way, shape, or form, which is entirely possible, then the US government just got incredibly lucky with this Wall Street Journal piece that I think has actually hurt the cause of finding out what actually happened. So look, these are all interesting. And by the way, Miles, you made a good point about Dominion. When a lie is big enough and specifically harms a company like Dominion, they're claiming is stolen election, etc. Yeah, at some point you have to defend yourself. If something is defamatory enough, at some point you have to defend yourself. I'm just saying that Trump has now made it so that a hair trigger, any criticism, any story about him, etc. Sue. And now that Gavin did it, and Gavin didn't do it on a thing that was as big as Dominion. It was kind of a tiny story, right? So it was like a run-of-the-mill Fox News lie that there's like 18 of those a day, right? So now it's like a factory of politicians suing, and it's just a terrible precedent. But overall, Maz, it looks like this has allowed his, in a kind of ironic way, Trump's guys to rally back around him.
Yeah, and that goes back to kind of what you started by saying, and me saying that you made a good point. It's possible Rupert Murdoch is helping him in this case, and they just kind of, behind the scenes. I'll get people distracted. It's kind of it's like finding an arsonist, and he's got a blowtorch in his hand, and he's got a flamethrower, and he's got a Molotov cocktail, and then someone comes by and goes, "Hey, look, I found a match," and then they go, "Oh, He planted that match. And now we're all going after that rather than going like, wait a minute, this guy's got all this stuff he's been holding and setting fires with. And that's to John's point about, we know the guy's a creep. We know he was close with Epstein. There's no doubt about it. Our focus should stay on that. And by the way, this client list, they could just ask Ghislaine Maxline. What's her name? Ghislaine Maxline?
Ghislaine Maxwell.
Ghislaine Maxwell. They could just ask Ghislaine Maxwell to write the list. She knows the list. So just sit her down and have her write the list. But then again, he'd probably sue her too. So you never know.
Exactly.
Yeah, they make it sound like, oh, it's impossible. You're totally right. She's right there. She's in prison. She could give us the list. They'll go, oh, no. We couldn't possibly do that. Why can't you do that? Oh, you're right. You know what? Give us a list. Otherwise, we're going to prosecute you to put you in jail for another 20 years. You deserve a 200-year sentence. Okay, so, oh, golly gee, we could not figure out how to do that. Oh, is that, I mean, come on. Guys, you know how many documents there are in the Epstein file? It's actually, that fact has been released. It is the equivalent of 100,000 books, 300-page books, 100,000 of them. And so
no names in them.
No, but like golly gee, the government just can't seem to find anything in those documents, right? Oh, okay, so that's why we have to talk about a letter that no one saw and have the whole conversation be distracted into that. Yeah. So on the second day of this story, it looks like it, in my opinion, it actually did damage and is counterproductive. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.